what I would like you to take notes on today is what we call the discriminant. And what I'm going to tell you today, guys, you're going to want to make sure that you have in your notes, because you're going to probably want to refer to it tomorrow and such, but the discriminant is something that you can calculate. It is part of the quadratic formula, and that part of the quadratic formula is essential for you to be able to find out what kind of solutions you have. So the first thing that I want to do is refresh your memory on what the quadratic formula is. The quadratic formula is a formula that you can use to solve quadratic equations. So far, we have talked about factoring quadratic equations. We have talked about typing them into y equals and letting the calculator do all the work for us. We have talked about completing the square. This is another method that you can use to solve quadratic equations. And the formula is, and you have used this before, it is negative b, but I don't like to think of it as negative b. What I like to think of it is the opposite of the b value. So if your b value is already negative, then it's going to be positive in your formula. So let's write down that that negative really means opposite. It's negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. In this formula, you use when you are given a quadratic equation that looks like this: ax squared plus bx is equal to 0. So a big old box around 0, because the equation has to be equal to 0 in order to use the quadratic equation, or the quadratic formula. If it is not equal to 0, you need to make it equal to 0 before you can attempt to use this. Now what I would like you guys to do, and we are going to talk about this whole formula at another time, but right now we're just going to talk about a teeny part of it. And that teeny part of it is this thing right here, b squared minus 4ac. This thing right here is what we call the discriminant, which is what I had you guys label your notes. Discriminant. 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 And it tells you something. So if you calculate the discriminant, it's going to tell you what kind of solutions you are going to have, and it will tell you how many solutions that you have. So I'm going to go on to another page. If the discriminant, which is also called b squared minus 4ac, is, if it is positive, that means that you are going to have two solutions. So when you calculate your answer, you're going to have two of them. You're going to have two answers. If b squared minus 4ac ends up being exactly 0, that means you will have exactly one solution. And if b squared minus 4ac is negative, notice how it shows up in the formula. The b squared minus 4ac shows up under the radical sign. So you would be taking the square root of a negative number. Can you take the square root of a negative number? No. So you would think that if it's negative, that means you're not going to have any solutions. But I'm going to teach you guys something new this year. They're called imaginary solutions. Yes, I am telling you the truth. That is not, I'm not making that up. What we call these is we're still going to have two solutions, but they are called non-real solutions. Non-real meaning imaginary.
So like imaginary numbers?
Imaginary numbers, yes. We'll talk about what all that means later. All right, so if it's negative, you get two non-real solutions. All right, I'm going to show you with an example now.
Sounds scary.
Okay. All right, example. Let's do 2x squared minus 4x, that's supposed to be an x. You with me here, guys? Sorry, it's so sloppy. Minus 3 is equal to 7. So the first thing you need to do is realize that you can't do anything with this yet. Why not?
It's not equal to 0.
Not equal to 0. So we need to make it equal to 0, and we can make it equal to 0 by subtracting 7. Alright, so those cancel out. We are left then with 2x squared minus 4x. Negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10 is equal to 0. Now what we need to do is use the quadratic formula. But we're not actually going to use the whole thing today. What we're going to do instead is just find out how many solutions should we have. What are our choices for solutions? There's 3 of them. We can either have 2 solutions or 1 solution or
2 non-real.
non-real. So let's figure out what happens here. First of all, you don't need to do this part if you don't want to, but some people need this written down, so I'm going to write it down. What is the A value in this case? It's 2. It's the number in front of x squared. It's the coefficient of x squared. What is B? It is negative 4. What is C? It is negative 10. Alright, so when we calculate the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, the b value in this case is negative. Please, 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 Pinky promise me that when you calculate b squared, you put the b value in parentheses. So many people forget, you will get a completely different answer. Should be negative 4 in parentheses squared minus 4 times the a value. What's the a value?
2.
What's the c value?
Negative 10.
Negative 10. And then you need to do some button pressing on your calculator. Please make sure the negative 4 is in parentheses. Square it. Minus 4 times 2 times negative 10. What do you get? Does someone have an answer yet? What do you get? You get 96, a positive 96. Do you guys agree? What does that mean? 96 is a positive number. And if it is positive, that means you will have 2 solutions. Okay? Alright, what I would like you to do, don't push it out the way yet. What I would like you to do is one more example. And I would like you to do this one. I'm going to delete and start over. Let's do negative 4x squared. Negative 4x squared minus 4r. 4x, excuse me. Minus 4x. Is it really time to go? Equals 6. I'm going to keep going because I want this recorded, but if you want to pack up and head out, that's okay. I'm going to subtract 6 first of all. It'll leave you with negative 4x squared minus 4x minus 6 equals 0. The a value is negative 4. The b value is negative 4. The c value is negative 6. Please be respectful of the fact that I'm trying to do this. B squared minus 4ac is equal to negative 4 squared minus 4. Look. Times negative 4 times negative 6. When you calculate all of that, you should end up with negative 80. Don't forget your parentheses around the negative 4. And because this number right here is negative, because it is negative, negative, that means that you have two non-real solutions.
She's recording that too.